and it's a nice, great little campsite I found online, stumbled on Airbnb. A great host by the name of Joe, camping out here. And the theme of my channel is not, the road itself when you travel. It's the people that you meet on the road that count. So my whole episodes on my channels are exclusively just interviews with people that I meet by chance on the road. That's why it's called Chat by Chance Cross Country. And you can look me up on YouTube and subscribe to this channel. I appreciate it. And just follow me along the way. And it's just talking to people like you would meet on the road, just bumping into, just having everyday conversation, just quick bits. This beautiful place to give a quick glance here around, and there's cabins here on this site that Joe has. Here's my trusty steed I'm making my trip on. Not the big tour bike, the 650 KLR, but it does the job and it gets me off road and all. And I'm actually camped out back in the middle of the woods on a platform tent setting, a permanent tent affixed. So I didn't have to lay down my tent. I'm just on top of a platform, and it's in the middle of no man's land out in the woods. The frogs, bullfrogs, critters, snakes, everything else, and just loving it. I've never slept so good in my life. And this great gentleman here, Joe, he's the host of the campground. He built the campground here. Joe, where's it you're originally from before you moved to Florida, sir?
I was originally from Pennsylvania. That's where I grew up, in the small town of Halifax, just on the other side of the Appalachian Mountain Trail.
Wow. So, yeah, that sounds remarkable up there, too. Great terrain and territory. And so you probably always had an affinity for the outdoors growing up.
Yes, yeah. I grew up in a hunting family. I wasn't much of a hunter. I shot my buck and doe and stuff like that, but I wasn't an avid hunter. I was more of just loved to be out in the nature type person, you know what I mean? But our family grew up owning woodlands, several, probably 50, 60 acres on Broad Mountain, Pennsylvania.
Oh, gosh. And yeah, we're still in constant communication out here always, no matter where we go nowadays, folks. Yeah. Joe, let me ask you this. When you moved down here, what brought you to Florida, sir?
Well, during the later years of Volkswagen, they started paying decent money for master techs to relocate. They needed good techs. Unfortunately, in this day and age, not as many young guys coming up into the industry as there is the old guys that are already in there. So they started paying money to relocate. And I ended up relocating to Pensacola initially area. And then I worked for Pete Moore Volkswagen for about a year under contract. And that's how I got to this area. And
what inspired you to build this campground?
Well, I had not in the beginning. There was no thought of building this for a purpose. But what had happened was my 21-year-old daughter had been killed in a car accident. And the guy that hit her was past 3 cars and speeding and never was charged for her death. It was in a school zone on top of that. We had a wrongful death lawsuit filed, and actually I just wanted the guy to pay for what he'd done, and he never showed any remorse. And it was just an awful situation, but the end result was that we got money for the wrongful unjust accident or whatever, wrongful death. At the time, I was grieving. We purchased this land, not knowing what the land was going to eventually do for me. I mean, at the time I would go to work for Pete Moore, come home, and I locked the gate, and I just blocked out the entire world. There was, my give a damn button broke, and just was tired of the world and all the nonsense and stuff that was out there. And little did I know that as I was building and working on this place, the wildlife, nature, and everything was where exactly I was supposed to be to heal. It wasn't the interaction with man that helped me heal. It was the lack of interaction, and just to see nature and the bald eagles and the bears and a lizard. I remember one day there was a skink and they're only supposed to be like 6 or 8 inches long. And I walk past a tree and I hear this sss, and I'm looking around, and I look over and there's this skink that's almost 2 foot long, a big female, which I didn't know what it was at the time. So I'm Googling everything out, and I'm like, and they're saying, well, it's 6 to 8 inches long. I'm like, this thing's almost 2 foot, almost like a prehistoric reptile or some sort. And needless to say, just things like that allowed me to mourn and heal over a period of time. And then last year I started getting ready for Malachi, which Malachi means God's messenger or God's angel, as a legacy to my daughter Jolisa, which was killed in that accident. So I like people that are like into the outdoors, or somebody that just maybe struggling with life right now, to come here and let the same thing that worked on me work on them.
Oh, that's remarkable. What a tribute to your daughter here. And also it sounds like it's been a great self-healing for you, your salvation.
Yeah, I definitely, when somebody loses somebody young like that, and you'll hear all people say, oh, I'm sorry. That really doesn't cut it, but that's all they know how to express. And the mourning that you feel, it could last the rest of your life. And I just chose to live for her and have her legacy continue, versus me stopping that point in time and just be the point where you just don't exist anymore. It's different when an older person passes on. Not that you're not sad and you're mourning. That person had lived a full life. When you have a child that's only 21, that's never been married, and hasn't really lived life, just becoming an adult, that conversation where you sit down and your children are say, Dad, you're right. Dad, you're right. That just started, so. But this place gave me an outlet for all the grief, because the work to keep this place up and running it's constant. You're the caretaker. You got to make sure. And now I'm building trails into the 10 acres that allow people to walk out into areas where people may have not been for 50, 100 years even out walking in it. I mean, this is an old area, undisturbed, and just amazing. There's something every day that we find here that we didn't see before. I had a little child come with, he had issues with swelling of the brain, and the week before he got here, I kept praying that all the critters would show up. Within 15 minutes, he had a rat snake or a garden snake on one arm and one on the other, and he's talking to this little girl and showing this little girl, and I mean, it's amazing of how things work out here. Sometimes even bigger than what I can perceive to happen.
Well, tell us a bit about, real quick, a bit about your Florida bear friend and that incident.
Well, the mother came the first year that I was here with 2 cubs, and she came in the back of the property, which is a heavy woodland to our grass area. And I saw her, and I just kept my distance. I videotaped her and the 2 cubs, and she just looked at me and walked on and moseyed down through. But it seems like every couple months, one of the 2 cubs comes on his own, the same trail as what they followed, and he'll come out and mosey around onto the grassland. And the last time he came out and he didn't see me. I was sitting on the bench, and he got within about 10 to 15 feet of me, and I put my hands up. I said, hey, I'm here, bear. He just kind of nodded his head and walked back into the woods and kept going. I think, he's not after me. I'm not his species that he's looking for dinner at. And as long as you're not, chasing him or going after him, they just kind of go back to doing their own business. He was actually just here probably about a week or 2 ago. the campers were calling me and texting me, "There's something big out here. There's something big out here." I said, "Don't go out and pet it. Just let it go. It's not a zoo."
Yeah, it's really, if you want a true, really genuine camping experience, I meet such a genuine, nice man here. Come down to Joe's place, and just an extraordinary experience. And me, it's just going to be absolutely one of the highlights of my trip that I'll never forget. My experience down here at Joe's place, the camping here, and just being out in the woods and everything. And it's, you walk back there, and it's just, you feel just a totally sense of peace and serenity. And to be camping back in it is really something special. But anywhere on this site, the cabins, everything, he's got great restroom, shower facilities, everything's built here, and it's just a remarkable place to come visit here and meet this extraordinary gentleman. And very personable, very outgoing, and extremely helpful. I got my motorcycle the other day, and I'm sure he'll never forget me. I was out in the woods, like a fool. I go, wow, let's take my bike back to this tent. Well, I wasn't familiar with the terrain here, where the top of the soil is crispy, yet underneath is sludge and mud. And my bike was literally half under the mud. Wouldn't you say, Joe?
I would say it was buried to the frame. It's good that he had an old time mechanic that's used to lifting a couple 100 pounds to get that, because we could not get it out with even the come along. We had to just physically lift it out of there, and that's common. He's not the first person that, when I first moved here, my truck, I went 10 feet in on the soil and broke the surface. And once you break the surface, the aquifer is so close to the surface, which is a blessing, because that allows us to have all these tropical plants. Once you break that surface, you're just going to hit till you hit water, and you're going to bottom out. Needless to say, it didn't cost him any money. When my truck got into the ground, that was the first year I was moving here, I actually had to get a wrecker to pull me out. So
yeah, you're quite the wrecker there, Joe. And don't sell yourself short. We're not talking 200 pounds, guys. We're on my bike here, we're talking 450 pounds. This is one strong man. You lifted a lot of engines there on your time, Joe.
Yeah, motors and transmissions over the years.
This guy can deadlift like you would not believe. And but we spent a long time out there, and it was quite an ordeal. That was my first day, my first experience here. But it's one I won't forget, and I'm sure it's one that Joe won't forget either. But this is how helpful the man is. I mean, where can I find that kind of help? This guy spent we were out there like 2 hours, it seemed like, and just working, getting me out of there, and just afterwards, just a pat on the back. Don't worry about it, So that's Joe for you. But so we'll call it on this one here. Chat for Chance Cross Country. Look me up online, or like us here, like Joe, and subscribe. And that's Chat by Chance Cross Country on YouTube. And I'll see you down the road for our next episode, whomever we meet along the way. And going to head out today or tomorrow. I'm headed out towards start making my way down to the Keys, the Florida Keys. Now the Dorian, all the remnants of Dorian seems to have passed here in Florida, and I'm taking off. So I'm experiencing that rain on my bike here. And we're good to go, but every cloud has a silver lining. Dorian certainly had a silver lining here for me, folks. Thank you so much, Joe. It's been a pleasure and an honor to meet you, sir.
Thank you.